championship. But there's a giant cloud that's really over the entire sport of college basketball, things that have happened in the last 24 hours involving potential NCAA violations, and the most significant story which broke coming from our own Mark Schlabach about Arizona last night. The headline of Mark Schlabach's story is that head coach Sean Miller is captured on an FBI wiretap discussing paying $100,000 to ensure that Deandre Ayton signed with the Wildcats, as sources familiar with the government's evidence told ESPN's Mark Schlabach that this is all part of the FBI investigation. Arizona responded for comment by reiterating a statement issued back in October, where Sean Miller denied having any knowledge of the alleged scheme. This is what the statement said: I recognize my responsibilities not only to establish a culture of success on the basketball court and in the classroom, but promote and reinforce a culture of compliance. And you see the rest of the statement from Miller's quote back in October. But things have changed now. He's captured on a wiretap, trying to arrange for $100,000 to go to Deandre Ayton. Arizona plays Oregon tonight. It seems beyond the realm of comprehension that Sean Miller could coach this game or that Deandre Ayton would be in this game.
There's no way that they will. Sean Miller will be put on administrative leave, or at least should be, while this is being sorted out. And there's no way that Deandre Ayton could play in a game while this is being sorted out. I mean, this is a question of risk management for the University of Arizona. But it's also a profound disappointment. I know that I'm not going to speak for you guys, but to me personally, I've known Sean for a long time. I actually stood up for him and what I thought was his level of integrity through this whole Book Richardson thing. I didn't think there was any way that he knew about such stupidity on the part of Book Richardson to the extent those allegations were true. But this great reporting by Mark Schlabach that reveals this. I can't tell you how disappointed I am. I can't imagine. I mean, this is a career-ending thing for Sean Miller. Career-ending, and I can't imagine him ever coaching in college again.
Yeah, just to clarify, for those who might not know, Book Richardson is one of the assistants who was earlier indicted by the FBI for his role in all of this. And then, according to Schlabach's reporting, it was Sean Miller saying that, "Talk to me about the money," and said it's incomprehensible for a head coach to be in this situation.
It's incomprehensible, and I totally agree with Jay in that. I cannot imagine a scenario, knowing Sean Miller since probably he's about 5 years old, that he would be in this situation. And to me, it's sobering, kind of makes me angry, it's disappointing, and he's going to be held accountable. And you can't deny the facts. The facts are the facts, and the consequence is real simple. He will not coach another game at Arizona. Deandre Ayton will not play another game at Arizona. And the games that he did play will be forfeited, and Arizona will not play in the NCAA tournament.
And the consequence might be greater than just not coaching again, too. He still may have much bigger problems ahead of him, speaking of Sean Miller.
Am I shocked that this goes down? No, I'm not shocked. I understand the underbelly of how college basketball works. What I am shocked about is the fact that Sean Miller had a direct relationship with Christian Dawkins, and they communicated in that fashion. The way I've understood how this thing works is that there's somebody else, either a guy or two guys removed, that has that conversation with the likes of a Christian Dawkins, and that's how the operation goes down. It doesn't come directly from that relationship with Sean Miller.
Yeah, and just so that we're all clear. And
I'm not saying it's correct. I'm just saying that's how.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Like, we all feel the same way about this. Look, I have certain views on NCAA policy. I think policies should change. That doesn't mean I'm not a rules guy, and I don't believe in rules and compliance with rules. We can talk about whether Sean was a stupid crook, but according to Mark Schlabach's reporting, crook, and that ain't right. And that in any aspect. And the only thing I would say, like, I don't think this is just a college basketball program. This is a college sports program. This is a moneyed college sports program. The difference between this and football, which is going on in both, is that the FBI is involved in this. So we're seeing everything. If the FBI weren't involved in this, we'd be saying if this were proven and all this other stuff, and we'd be saying, hey, look, this is not as big of an issue and all that stuff. With the FBI involved, I mean, people are looking at potential criminal penalties as a result of this, and Sean Miller should be worried about that as well as keeping his job. He's not keeping his job, but he should be worried about more than his job.
No way he can keep his job.
Jay, you were a great player, obviously played in the league, player of the year, but to me, the thing that probably is a little bit more shocking, we all know agents have been involved in recruiting forever. And in their minds, it's business. They're going to have relationships with AA coaches. They're going to have relationships so that they can develop relationships with these prospects at an early age. It starts when they're in 8th grade, 9th grade. Usually you develop a relationship with those agents so that when the kid is making a decision, at worst, he's not hurting you.
You being the coach.
Yeah, the coach.
Yes.
At best, he's helping you because, let's face it, in the room where it happens, you want to have a voice. To me, the shocking thing is that Sean Miller was the point person.
That's why I say, yeah, exactly.
And to me, that is egregious to the point of it's hard to put your hands around, but it's not just Sean Miller.
Yeah, and just so we're clear, I mean, there's nothing wrong with talking with agents, with dealing with agents.
Against the rules.
Yeah, it's not against the rules. So there's nothing wrong with any of that stuff. But look, this has nothing to do with agents. This is a coach that is arranging for money for a player. That has been against NCAA rules since 1905. You know, this is not a gray area. And the idea, you know, like it sort of goes back to the dumb crook versus just crook thing. Like, look, we can all discuss, like, if you're going to do that, how could you be so stupid? But the fact is, this was done, and it's game over. Game over.
For his entire
Over.
career. I totally agree with you. It's a remarkable thing to me that, to your point, that the head coach is out there doing this, because I know this sounds cynical, but this is how this works. A guy trying to make his bones and climb up the ladder, he does the shifty stuff. The head coach is supposed to remove himself from it, or if he's going to hold himself up to be a bastion of integrity, which so many of these coaches do, then you have to live up to that. And none of this meets that standard.
Well, you know, the bastion of integrity thing.
But they do.
They do, but they have to. Like, they have to say that. Everybody says, well, we're a culture of compliance and all that, because the NCAA makes you say that. You know, at the end of the day, this is also about NCAA rules. Like, we're sitting here talking about the FBI with regard to meals and all that stuff. So you're really asking yourself, I never thought we would be in a position where a school is going, well, wait a minute. We've got an issue where a player or player's family may have had an impermissible meal and took an impermissible benefit for an agent. Do we have to contact the FBI and let them know about this? I mean, that's the world we may be living in.
Well, let's hit some of that right now, because Arizona is the big story, because we don't know Sean Miller's future. We don't think we'll see him on the sideline again. But there were other things coming out prior to Schlabach's report. This is documents some of the investigation going on into the Andy Miller investigation, who is the discredited former NBA agent. Players from more than 20 Division I schools identified as possibly breaking rules. Some of the current guys are still in college basketball. Wendell Carter at Duke, Miles Bridges at Michigan State, Kevin Knotts, Kentucky, Colin Sexton at Alabama. A couple of guys, Eric Davis and Malik Pope, aren't going to play this weekend because of that, while schools investigate all of these allegations. There seems to be more to come, and there's impact going on right now for these games this weekend, for upcoming conference tournaments and the NCAA tournament.
I agree. I think we just continuously need more clarity on what these meetings were about, because, you know, you're allowed, parents are allowed to have meetings with agents as long as you pay your own half of the meal, whatever that might be. So there's a lot more information that we need to find out as regards to some of these meetings and how they went down.
And we don't know, like, some of the stuff that was in the quote-unquote ledger. That was revealed in the great reporting by Pat Forty and Pete Thamel. Just because it's in a ledger, you have to have corroboration for that. You know, you could have Christian Dawkins saying that he met with somebody, didn't actually do it, or saying that he gave money or paid for something they didn't actually pay for. We don't know all that stuff. It would be painfully naive to think that none of it happened. But that stuff needs to be corroborated. We're dealing with some of these guys on really low level, a meal here, a couple bucks here, not dealing with 10,000.
And Jay, can I just add to that real quick,
yeah.
Just because understanding that business, I've also known a lot of guys that have put in receipts like that, who have pocketed a lot of the money that they say they gave to the client in order, because they don't feel like they're well compensated. A lot of guys who are runners are supposed to get a percentage,
to make
a percentage of what the agent is going to get, and a lot of them feel like they haven't gotten their percentage. So what they end up doing is they pocket a lot of the money that they claim to have given to that athlete.
Are you suggesting some of these people would be disingenuous in any of their business dealings?
Exactly.
Well, Christian Dawkins' reputation is not exactly stellar.
The people might tell you Christian Dawkins is he worked for Andy Miller. Right?
Christian Dawkins worked for Andy Miller, and his reputation, I mean, he was a fictitious basketball player that created this persona to help himself get recruited when he really was never a basketball player. But that's not
24-year-old kid.
24-year-old kid, and he's taking down college basketball. But
maybe rightfully so, though, Seth. I mean,
college basketball is taking itself down.
But you've got to understand that if you are having these meetings, if you're Michigan State, if you're Duke, if you're any of these schools that have involved a player that allegedly had these meals or allegedly had these meetings and there was something transpired, I don't know why anyone is playing any of these guys to play one game. Wouldn't you want to get out ahead of it and basically then do a legitimate investigation? If I ask you, well, did you have a meal with so-and-so? And you say, no, I didn't have that meal. Is that enough? Are you covering yourself?
I'm not sure that's fair to suggest that the investigations have not been legitimate, that for the schools that are playing their guys, because the NCAA is involved in all these things. Nobody is making a decision without NCAA involvement. So it is a question of risk management. I understand what you're saying. Maybe at your school you wouldn't do this. But if the player can prove, like, look, none of this happened, and prove it to the satisfaction not only of his compliance office and his administration, but also of the NCAA, then you don't see a risk. If it's more than just a meal or something like that, then maybe they're saying, look, we need to sit the kid while we figure this out because we don't want to take the risk. So there are different levels here. We're talking a meal with one person. We're talking $500 with another, $10,000 with another. It's all different.
But here are a couple of the latest things now. Kentucky basketball just tweeted a couple of seconds ago that they had done an immediate investigation and no student athletes had been at risk or have been ruled ineligible. The translation of that, Kenny Knox expected to play for Kentucky against Missouri. Duke issued a similar statement. Wendell Carter expected to play against Syracuse. Colin Sexton at Alabama, they believe that this reporting in the Leisure and the Yahoo Sports story from Thamel and 40 referred to the early season where Sexton had made restitution, set out a game, and that it's the same thing that was on that Ledger, the reference to him. So you might be asking, where is the NCAA in all of this right now while the FBI investigation goes on? Here's the statement that was issued from NCAA President Mark Emmert. These allegations, if true, point to systematic failures that must be fixed and fixed now. Listen to this part. If we want college sports in America. Simply put, people who engage in this kind of behavior have no place in college sports. They are an affront to all who play by the rules. That part I can agree with. I think the part if we want college sports in America is kind of ridiculous and hyperbolic.
Same NCAA that is trying to follow the 13th Amendment as a reason why players shouldn't get paid, correct?
The president of systematic failure.
Stop it.
I mean, that's ridiculous to even suggest that.
This
has been going on forever.
And that was
going on forever.
A very poor choice of phrase in the middle. This is not going to end the enterprise. Will it change it for the better? Will it make some more reasonable rules for our culture? Hopefully. Maybe. It's not going to shut it down. They're
playing all the games, all the contracts will be fulfilled, and all the money will change hands. Just none of it will go to the players.
I just don't see how you can ever stop it, RD. You can always take 2 or 3 guys, remove, and funnel money into different organizations or 501c3s.
But, Jay, I agree with you, but that's like saying in insider trading, we can't stop insider trading. You deal with the transgressions when they come to you, but nobody's saying, if we want a stock exchange in America, we need to deal with it. That's
fair.
stupid.
We need to have a system closer to what they do in baseball and hockey.
To put it very, very...
have an opportunity to have representation, whether it's legal representation or advice as an advisor. But to say those relationships aren't going to be developed and they're not going to have those type of relationships, you can't stop those relationships from happening.
These players did not make this a multi-billion-dollar business. The NCAA did. All the institutions did. They're the ones that signed all these contracts. They're the ones that sell all these tickets. The NCAA did this. And I agree with you. We can sit and double down on all this, but I think what we really need to do is examine the business that we have and then fashion rules that allow the players to participate in this business such that they are not at risk of breaking federal law.
Yeah, that's the thing, because most of these people, coaches, players, shoe company executives, they didn't know, they knew they were breaking rules. They didn't know they were breaking the law.